Trump stands firm on tariffs amid the stock market turmoil. Let's take a look.
Trump is holding firm on his tariffs, rejecting calls for a pause. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce tracking that debate. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, with his sweeping so-called reciprocal tariffs set to take effect at midnight tonight, the president is not backing down, but his administration is sending some mixed messages about this trade war. The president speaking of these tariffs as permanent policy while also opening the door to bargaining. This morning, in the face of turmoil on Wall Street, President Trump remains defiant.
I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end.
He's showing no signs of budging despite growing fear among economists that a recession is on the horizon. Top investors, even Trump supporters, now urging him to hit the brakes. I asked the president, would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us, and they're going to be fair deals.
The White House says almost 70 countries have come calling, but so far only Japan appears engaged in any kind of active negotiations before Trump's 24% tariff takes effect. We pressed the Treasury Secretary. You're starting to negotiate. How soon do you think we could see some deals be made?
Well, we have one of the Vietnamese officials coming in.
I thought Scott Bessent would have backed away from this by now. I really thought that he would have backed out of this. Like it would have been forced to just retire, leave the administration. You know what I mean? I truly thought he would have quit by now. It is kind of interesting that he's still holding on. You know, he's still holding on. He looks scared. He has the attitude of a man who is not. It feels like he's not happy about what the things that he has to defend, but we'll see.
The Japanese are very eager to get over, and I think you're going to see a couple of big trading partners do deals very quickly.
The president pressed on the purpose of his tariffs as his administration sends mixed messages, asked if they're a permanent strategy or a short-term negotiating tactic.
Well, they can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations because there are things that we need beyond tariffs.
The president appearing.
Yeah, his message is now the White House message. Talk about negotiations, but keep the tariffs. The reason why they're doing that is because they want the markets to scream a little less. Because it's not just about like a consolidation of wealth in the way that like even Robert Reich and Sam Cedar and many other people whose opinion I trust on a lot of this stuff have indicated. Because there's a lot of people who think like, oh, Trump is purposely tanking the market so that his buddies can just like pick apart the pieces for pennies on the dollar. I don't think that is the primary purpose. I think that is a secondary purpose that happens regardless, right? No matter what happens, that is what is going to happen. That's just the normal capitalist imperative. Having said that, that is not the reason why he's doing this. The tariffs are, I think, the most instructive thing that we have seen thus far. If you are confused about the tariffs, is the 5 points that one random guy delivered in front of what was it? There was another press conference of a low-level dude who got up and said, "Here are the 5 things that we want from these other countries, including purchasing more weapons, including purchasing more of our shit." And I think that is the major. Those are the real reasons why he's implementing these destructive tariff initiatives. Do you think the primary purpose is to essentially strong arm other countries into purchasing American goods? Yes, that is one of the major reasons why he's doing this. There's a couple reasons why he's doing this. Okay, there's a couple reasons why he's doing this. The number one most important reason why he's doing this is because China has cleaned up over the course of after being forced into the World Trade Organization. Okay, China utilizing state subsidies and its command economy has absolutely dominated the rest of the planet in terms of trade. And other countries don't look to that and go, wait, why don't we also have a higher degree of socialization and try to implement a command economy? Instead of doing that, other countries decided you're cheating. That's basically what this is. This is called cheating. there is a finite amount of subsidies that you can offer your agricultural producers. If you're America, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't really matter. But ultimately, if you are using capitalism as a sleeve, right, and you're not actually capitalist minded, and you are instead utilizing your supposedly capitalist corporations to dominate global trade by offering complete state control to your production that makes it impossible to compete against, then that's really fucked up. That's called cheating. That is unironically the argument, okay? They say Chinese meta too strong. Chinese meta is too strong. Please nerf. This is OP. At no point does anybody go, why don't we also chase the Chinese meta? Not a single person has decided that perhaps that could be the next evolution of capitalism. Okay? So that's a big gripe that obviously Ursula von der Leyen has, the European markets have. That's a big gripe that America has. And Donald Trump wants to decouple the rest of the world from Chinese manufacturing by force. Okay? White House aide Stephen Moran outlines 5 potential responses. This is, ironically enough, one of the most instructive things I have read, knowing what I know about the Trump administration, knowing what I know about Project 2025, knowing what I know about previous administrations and their overarching goals of undermining Chinese dominance of the global stage for global trade. Okay? This is, I'm telling you right now, the greatest summarization of what their administration's goals are. Don't listen to anything else, just this. Number 1, foreign countries can accept tariffs without retaliation, giving U.S. revenue. Number 2, they can stop the unfair/harmful trade practices and buying more from the U.S. This is the major part. This is what they want to do. They want to forcibly sell our hormone-induced beef to other countries at the higher price points that they can't even fucking purchase at. Or they want our salmonella chicken by force to dominate their marketplaces, okay? Or they want our cars that they cannot drive in their fucking roads to dominate their roads. This is what it is. Because other than that, what else do we sell? Weapons. And also, of course, services. We sell a lot of services. The entire global economy revolves around services. Financial services, tech services, things of that nature. Okay? Those are the things that we sell. And we already dominate on that front regardless. Boost defense spending and procurement from U.S. And ding, 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 there it is. This is the third and perhaps also incredibly important point. They want other countries to make up for the trade deficit by buying more of our weapons. Okay? Buy more of our arms. Please buy more of our arms. That's the only thing we have. There's nothing else that we have. We don't make shit. We make weapons. So you have to buy these weapons. And then, last but not least, they want foreign nations to invest and install factories in the United States and also directly write checks to the U.S. Treasury. That last one is really funny. So, this right here, in my opinion, is the most instructive 5-point goal that I have seen so far from the administration. Pay no attention to what like Navarro says versus what Lutnick says versus what Bessent says versus what Donald Trump says. They have their own personal goals, but I think overall this is the greatest summary I have seen of the actual goals that the administration has beyond what I just described to you about like forcing China to no longer have this dominant position in global trade because their subsidy-backed commodity production methods are, unfortunately for the rest of the world, impossible to compete with. Now, let's just say I'm very familiar with the neoliberal argument here. I'm very familiar with the pro-capitalist argument. I'm very familiar with the Fukuyama guided argument that many people have. I talk to people all the time who I disagree with, who understand global trade, who have a very different attitude around the world. And I genuinely keep explaining to them that the major advantage that I have over them is that I do not have the capitalist dogmatic framework when analyzing the situation. Okay? They do. I have identified 2 things that I think cause a lot of the experts, because I do talk to some experts, a lot of the experts, I think, have horse blinders on. They operate within the capitalist dogmatic framework, and therefore they can't make sense of what China is doing, or rather, sometimes they analyze what China is doing and consider it to be cheating. Okay? The two issues are, number one, assuming, and this will always lead you astray, assuming that China is operating with the profit motive, with the capitalist framework, okay? That their goals overall are to make sure that their corporations have higher profit margins year over year. That's the only thing that China cares about. If you think that that's how China operates, just like Western liberal democracies do, you're going to be wrong every single time. You're going to be wrong in a very public and in a very spectacular way. You're going to think, ghost cities, greatest example, right? You're going to go, look at these ghost cities. They're empty. Nobody wants them. Why are they building them? Oh, just for jobs, right? In the short term, haha, how stupid. Guess what? They're no longer ghost cities because they were doing planning ahead of time. Okay? That's number one. The assumption that China is operating with the same capitalist framework and not simply using capitalism as a weapon to dominate global trade for their own personal desires of having more political power on the global stage, that's always going to lead you astray. Whether you are looking at Chinese domestic affairs or whether you're looking at Chinese foreign policy, you will always be wrong if you assume they're simply operating in the same framework that the Western liberal capitalist democracies are operating on. The second problem is the notion, the false notion that there is a method to the madness, that this system that we have designed, the world order that we have taken for granted for the past 60 years, and especially accelerated in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR, which is analogous to what is happening in the United States of America right now as well, but I'm not going to get into that currently. That system is infallible, so whenever something like Donald Trump happens within that structure, the system has safeguards to bring everything back to normalcy. The nothing ever happens mentality, the Zoomer attitude of Fukuyama thought, the end of history. This is also wrong. If you think that this structure is infallible, if you think that the structure will always fix itself somehow by force, markets will rebound no matter what, because the profit incentive that is the underpinning of everything that we do, the design of this society. If you think that influence, that attitude, that motivation will inevitably cause people to come to their senses, you will be led astray as well. Because sometimes there are a lot of fucking dumb mistakes that these guys make. This is one of them. Directionally, Donald Trump is accelerating the war against China, the trade war against China, in the same ways that Barack Obama and Biden also tried to do. But the way he's doing this is stupid. So if you think there's some sort of 5D chess move that's taking place here, you will be led astray. It's that simple. That's it.